Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time as a listener, thank you for joining us. If you're a reoccurring listener, thank you for joining us once again. If the subject and the contents of coaching, leadership, and team is something that you're passionate about and resonates with you, think this channel is a great fit, think this podcast is a great fit. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Have a great day. How's it going? This is Keanu Yamamoto with the Coachers Podcast, sitting here with Coach Dave Turnbull, head track coach for Summit High School. Coach, thanks for jumping on. Please tell us about your family, journey, background, all that good stuff.
Well, thanks for having me here in Bend, Oregon. Family, my wife of, forever, 36 years. Susan, my son Noah. He was an athlete down at Southern Oregon University. He's now working my DJ business and a manager for Enterprise Rent-A-Car here. And my daughter Asha, who works in town here, our school record holder in the triple jump. And my dogs, Kobe and Shaq.
Well, tell us a little bit about your progression, just kind of born and raised, obviously competed at Oregon State, and then how'd you get to where you're at now?
Yeah, born in Pendleton, Oregon, grew up there, discovered that I had some foot speed. It was one of those things as a kid, you always want to race people to the fence, and I still remember that. I wish track meets were a little bit more like that right now, but they've gotten so high-tech, and it's fine. It makes our lives easier, but that was a little bit of my identity because I struggled in the classroom. I was eventually diagnosed with ADHD, but as a kid, just a slow learner, somebody that didn't understand math very well and struggled in the classroom. So having found some success in sports, my elementary school PE teacher helped me learn the high jump. He got some things together, put a pit together, and I started high jumping, I think when I was 7 years old, and continued that, moved away from Pendleton in 1976, knew nobody here, immediately linked up with a kid named Eric Martin, who is one of the best athletes ever to come out of Central Oregon. He's the ski coach over at Mountain View, and we started buddying around. Seems like everything we were doing had some form of athleticism. He was state downhill skier, distance runner, and I was the jumper sprinter. So constantly challenging each other there, and went through Mountain View, ended up high jumping 7 feet 1/4 inch in high school, broke the state record. And that was a big goal of mine. I don't know exactly why I chose that. And when, in retrospect, I don't even know if I was really a high jumper. I was just a kid that really wanted to jump high and did everything he had to do that. But I have kids on our team right now that have more ability than I did. And I'd sure like to get a 7-footer out of Summit before I leave there, but I'm planning to retire in 2 years. So I don't know if that will be the case. And I just started, well, I guess I should backtrack a little bit. I got a football scholarship to Oregon State. I was a defensive back and running back at Mountain View, and we had a very good team, and a couple of us went Division I, and I had some immediate concussions when I got there, and I ended up having to leave football, and I stayed on with the track program there, had 4 years there, all Pac-10 back then, competitor in the high jump, long jump, triple jump, and 4x1 relay, and then wasn't the greatest student. I mentioned that earlier, and I still wasn't. And so when I got done with my 4 years, they cut the track program my senior year. I made it through my senior year, but they cut the program. And so I came back to Bend, and I was working at Ken's Ice Company. It's a place that I started working when I was very young, and I was managing the company, and I was really enjoying it. And then I met my wife, and I immediately knew she was the one. And we got married shortly thereafter, and I didn't want to work those 12-hour days anymore. I wanted to spend more time with her. And so I quit that job. I became a car salesman, and that was too up and down. You'd sell a car and make money, and then you'd have a month where you didn't sell cars. And I thought, I can't plan for a family. So I went and I started delivering beer. I was a beer delivery guy. And then I wasn't very happy in my job, but I was volunteer coaching at the time. And the only time I found myself truly happy was when I was coaching. And after running into my high school track coach, literally at Safeway, he looked at me and he said, "When are you ever going to go back and become a school teacher?" And I just shook my head. I said, "Why do you keep telling me that?" He said, "You have a talent, a skill." And I didn't understand what he was talking about, but I thought, you know what? He's right. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. So I went back to Oregon State, discovered that I had ADHD. I had a teacher, Dr. McCubbin, and he basically told me, "Yeah, you've been struggling this for a while." And he gave me some strategies on how best to learn with what I had. And I started studying. My GPA jumped a full point the next semester. And then after that, I never got less than a 4 point. And I discovered that I wasn't stupid. I just learned differently. And I think that's really helped me in my coaching. I understand kids to a level that they don't think I do. And instead of getting frustrated with an athlete, I'll step back and just go, okay, maybe there's a different learning technique. Maybe there's something I can do differently with this athlete. And it has really worked. And it's helped me talk to my assistant coaches about, instead of just getting down on this kid, let's take a look at the way he learns, the way he takes in information, the way he processes it, and the way he demonstrates it. And so I think my growth as a person has kind of designed the personality I have to be a track coach and to kind of understand kids. I think I talked about a lot there. I'm not sure I answered exactly your question. And that put me at Summit High School, where I've been there for 25 years. I'm the last original teacher. I'm the only coach in the building that's also a teacher. We don't have teacher coaches anymore for a lot of different reasons, and that's probably an entire different podcast. You just call it the trouble with parents, because it's chasing coaches away left and right. The money's not worth it when you have to deal with parents all the time. But that brings you back to where I'm at now, 25 years later, and still going, and plan to do it for a couple more years, and then maybe spend more time on my property here.
That's awesome, Coach. Can you please touch on just kind of your other life, though? I had no idea about the other side of things, just your music background and your DJ business, just quickly.
Sure. I opened a DJ business back, 30 years ago. I was in a rock and roll band and we were playing music, and I had a friend getting married, and they asked if I could play music at their wedding, and I had some equipment left over and some CDs and CD players. I started doing that. And the next thing I know, the high school is asking me to DJ, and I had to go buy more equipment because they wanted the sub sound and all that. I didn't have it. So here we are all these years later, and we have one of the largest DJ companies in Central Oregon. My son is now taking it over. Thankfully, I'm not doing it anymore. It was wonderful, but it's a young man's job. Bedtime for me is 8:30 or 9, not 11 or 12 when they want to be done. And then I've been a musician all my life. Again, about the same time I started high jumping, I started playing guitar, and I just released an album 8 months ago. The Roads I've Traveled is the name of the album. It's on Spotify and Apple Music, and I don't have an Instagram or anything, so probably pretty hard to find it, but I think I'm the only David Turnbull on Spotify, and the album's doing pretty well, and I'm working on another one, and I'll probably finish it this summer now that I'm off of school.
That's good stuff, Coach. 25 years, right? And as we talked about before we got on, 23 state titles, 15 with the girls, 8 with the boys. What do you attribute a lot of that success to?
Well, I think in retrospect, primarily it goes back to my own personal drive and expectations. When we started Summit, I wanted to change. I wanted to build something that was just mine. And so I went to this brand new school that had no history, no expectations. And I met with the 8th graders I remember it was Papa's Pizza. And I sat them down. I said, welcome to Summit. We're going to win district in 3 years and state in 4. And we just started planning it out. We didn't have uniforms. We didn't have a track. We didn't have anything. And I think a couple of parents thought I was crazy. In fact, I found out 4 years later, they did think I was crazy. But in 3 years, we won the district championship. And in 4 years, we won the state championship. Weren't expected to place 6th. And I remember talking to one of my fathers that was there, and he asked me to stop preaching state championships, that I was going to break the kids' hearts. And I just looked at him. I said, no, we're going to win. He said, Dave, I've doped the meet out. The best you can do is 6th place. You need to drop 3 seconds off your 4x4. And I said, then we'll do it. You don't understand what we're doing here. And after he won it, he bought me my own little replica trophy, and he's given it to me, and he still works for us to this day. He's our records guy, Tom Crabtree, and he will tell you that story and just say that was one of the miracles of his life, watching what we were able to do. And I think the belief that we're capable of doing things that we don't even know we're capable of, and instilling that into our kids, I sell belief, I think, more than technique. And so I would think it starts there. And then I surround myself by having good people. We have 19 coaches on our coaching staff. Most of them are volunteers. And of those volunteers, most of them are former students of mine that are now coaching for us, which is fantastic because you don't have to teach them the program. They know it because they competed in it. And we've just been really fortunate to have people that are invested in success. They will go out and clinic when I ask them to. They take feedback very well. They're very honest and caring, and spend an inordinate amount of time around their kids.
Coach, obviously a lot of success. At what point in your career did you feel like, I got it figured out? This is who I am as a coach. This is who I am as a person. And just be able to communicate that and, like you said, sell belief and transpire that to your athletes.
Coaching is complicated. I would say about 12 years ago, that. And I thought I had it all figured out. And I got a little arrogant and found out that I was doing things in a more top-down manner than I really wanted to. You can't tell people what you want them to do. You have to ask them. You have to make them part of the conversation and the belief. And I remember going through a time in my life where I just thought I was it. And I think that's a growth process. And I went through that and had a run in with a couple of my coaches. And thank goodness they loved me, because they just helped set me straight and say, you know what, you're getting pretty egocentric. This is more than that. And so I think about the time you have it figured out, you really don't. And I'm learning every day. I go to track clinics, I speak at clinics, I listen to clinics, I watch video constantly. Every now and then I'll pull something up at school and I'll share my Facebook feed, and they're all like, well, we can see what you look at all the time, because it's just jumps. And so I don't know if you ever truly figure it out. By the time you think you do have it figured out and that you know everything, you should probably get out of coaching, because the fun's now not going to be there. The fun of coaching is discovering new and better ways to do things, and sometimes going backwards. A few years ago, I was doing all this new training stuff, and I thought we were just it. I was taking all these ideas. I went down to the Olympic Training Center, and I was with Jeremy Fisher down there, and he was just talking about the basic power lifts. And I'm like, we're doing all this Bosu ball stuff. We're doing all this balance stuff, this reactive stuff. And you know what? I came back and I went right back to the power lifts, and there came my jumpers again. You just have to keep those power lifts going. And there's so much out there right now that people see and they just believe, and then they come back to you. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? And this coach does that. I think I'm going to stick with what I know well and what I know works really well. And I think maybe that encompasses everything as far as understanding who I am as a coach and what I expect of my athletes. Is all of my coaches need to constantly learn. I need to constantly learn. I need to keep asking more of myself. And that's kind of why I've set a retirement date of 2028. I'm getting a little tired, and I think it's just a function of age and the fact that I've been doing this for so long. I want to make sure that I can still give 100%. If I cannot give that 100% and bring my best and ask the most out of my kids, then it's probably time to hang it up and let somebody else take the reins.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Coach. What's the why behind coaching?
The greatest people in my life were coaches. I didn't have a father figure until Ken Moyer at Ken's Ice Company, and he became a father figure to me. He taught me so many things, and I still to this day respect the heck out of Ken Moyer. And my stepdad, when I was younger, I didn't really understand him, and so I didn't have a great relationship with him. He's since passed, and we got very close as I finished up with college, and I kind of understood, okay, he just had a different way of communicating. It wasn't that he didn't love me, he didn't know how to say it. Ken just always offered leadership and guidance. My high school coaches, every single one of them, were fantastic people, just the people that you just want to be around all the time. I could have my worst day ever, and I could be coming from an argument with my stepdad, walk in the building, and Bill Smith would come across my path, and he'd just say, "Hey, Dave," and immediately my day would change. And I just said, I want to be a day changer. I want to be somebody that makes a difference in somebody's life. And so I wanted to be Bill Smith. And I'm so fortunate to have the kids we have right now. They send you these notes, these letters, these gift cards, the thank you notes on my wall. I think, without sounding arrogant, I think I achieved what I was meant to be, as somebody that can make somebody's life better, whether I win championships or not. If a kid smiles because of me, I'm doing what I was supposed to do.
That's good stuff, Coach. Overall coaching philosophy. What is important to Coach Dave Turnbull? What is important to Summit Track?
For me, it's to get the kid or kids to believe that they're capable of something more. I've had a saying I've been saying for years: the greatest limitations we have on ourselves are the ones we put on ourselves, right? We're limited by our thoughts. And if we're limited by our thoughts and we can't think outside our head, we need somebody else to tell us, right? Because I've said this for years, when you're inside your own head, it can be a dark place. You can think of the worst things. And I think humans are hypercritical. So we put ourselves down more than we lift ourselves up. And I think that's the role of a coach. The role of a coach is to lift kids up, especially at the time in their life where they need the lift. And so if I drive from that inspiration that I just want to help make kids better, then you have to get them to believe in better, right? I myself, as an example, Coach Valerga was my high school coach, and when I said my freshman year I wanted to jump 7.25 feet, instead of him looking at me, this little kid that's only jumped 5'6", he didn't look at me and say, "No, you can't." He said, "What do you do to get there?" And I said, I'll do any workout you give me." And he gave me some brutal workouts. And I remember growing as an athlete, learning power cleans back in a day in 1981, 82. I don't think people were really working that much on lifting. And I became so good at the power clean that my explosive ability went up because I was moving weight. I was moving it through the air, through the range of motion, triple extension, all those things that you have to have as an athlete happened through the belief that those coaches put into me. And then the strategies and techniques to get there, I was able to accomplish what I wanted to and earned a scholarship for it. And my family had no money. I grew up poor. And so my mom said, "You want to go to college? You got to get a scholarship." So I got a scholarship. And that's just what you did. The kids at Summit aren't a lot like me. They definitely aren't poor. We are seen as a fairly wealthy school. Do we have some kids in our school that aren't wealthy? Yes. But they're like me in the sense that they need inspiration and they need to be told that they can do something. And I'm not afraid to look at a kid as a freshman and say, "You're a 10.8 guy." And I had that just 2 years ago. And unfortunately, he had a hamstring injury his senior year, around 11.02, but he's 5'5". And he had just explosive power. And we just needed to extend his stride length a little bit. And he'd have gotten there. And we've got another one right now. I think he's a 10.8 kid, and we've got next year to get him there. And this year we had a 10.58 kid, a 10.8 kid, another kid 11 flat. They ran a 41.86 4x1 in the state of Oregon. That's fast. And your question about what drives me, what inspires me, and what we want out of our program and our kids is all about what does it take to get the best out of you from a character side, which drives the athletic side. If we develop character first, the athleticism comes. If you develop athleticism first, then the character lags. And anytime the character lags, you're going to deal with problems over and over and over. So build character while you're building the athlete. It's kind of like in the weight room. You can't just build strength without building speed. If you do that, you're in trouble. The speed won't come if you just get big. So I think as a philosophy, character, athleticism, that's the order of operations.
Coach, the resume speaks for itself. But if I'm an 8th grader, if I'm a 9th grader walking the halls, or if you're sitting down with the parents and they don't know anything about Coach Dave Turnbull or Summit Track, what would that recruiting pitch be to me and my family to get me to come out for track and some of the benefits of what track could provide me for, some of the other sports that I play?
Well, I'll tell you, if it's just a kid walking through the halls, my pitch is always the same. It hasn't changed for years. I'll see a kid and it doesn't matter if they're a good kid. Like if I've come across that kid and I just see the character in them, I'll just go up to them and say, "Hey, what event in track do you do?" And they'll say, "I don't do track." And I said, "No, you do. Just tell me what event you do." And they're like, "I'm not fast." You don't have to be fast. And so I just go through this whole list of things I ask them about themselves instead of tell them. And then pretty soon they're like, "Hey, Coach, why are you asking me about that?" "Because you have what I want." "Well, but I'm not fast." "No, but you have character." "I want the character part." And so we try and get the right kids out there instead of the best athletes. It doesn't have to be the best athlete. It has to be the right athlete. And so we don't get a lot of our basketball players now. We don't get a lot of our soccer players now. As you're well aware, club mentality has taken over the world. And when a parent pays $3,000 for their kid to play soccer and track's only $100, if there's a conflict, they're going to go where the $3,000 is. They're not going to go to track, even if their kid's doing better in track, because it's the investment model is what everybody's doing now. And I think it's really unfortunate. But at the same time, now I'm sitting in the office. You asked the question, if they're telling, I had this earlier this year, and I won't say the person's name. She hasn't developed yet. She's going to. You come back to me in 2 years, and I'll talk about the state champion pole vaulter that we have, who's doing things that people don't know. Well, she's a high-level gymnast as well. And they came and sat down with me. We appreciate you asking about pole vault, but we have this commitment to gymnastics. And I said, because of your commitment to gymnastics, your daughter has an athleticism that most other kids don't. But I want to develop speed with that. And we put together speed and athleticism. We have a state champion pole vaulter. And now all of a sudden you have a daughter that's she's got eggs in both baskets. Where does she want to go? And once you explain it to them like that and they can see the potential, now she's been out She loves it. She's got a mental hang up with it, which it's pole vault. I mean, how many kids don't? She's special, and we've got several in that realm right now. Our pole vault program is probably one of the best in the state. If you take a look at the rankings of our vaulters and where we're at, and we lost River, our number one vaulter this year. He came down, snapped his tib fib in the pole vault, and we're like, oh no. And then what happens? The other ones move up, and we still qualified 3 to state, which is the most you can qualify, because that's the expectation. Next man up, very similar to Oregon's philosophy years ago. Next man up. But going back to my comment with parents, I have to sell them on the benefits of what track can bring them, because you're arguing against something else where every coach is saying, if you want to be successful, you have to do club. And I'm telling my kids, you know what? In the summer, go camping, go be a kid, get away from all this. Just go have fun. And that's not a common theme anymore. Everybody wants to push.
Yeah. Greatest challenge in coaching.
Parents, unequivocally. And we're in a sport that it's a numbers game. It shouldn't be a parent issue, but there's somebody else doing something different, something better. And it's like, it's not better, it's different. And
Can I get you like a 23 chain or something? Oh, you can just wear around and wear a gold 23 chain. They're like, yeah. LeBron James, Michael Jordan. No, state championships.
That's right. And I guess, we go from the team concept. We qualified 46 kids to state this last year, and I've never heard of that. In fact, I was figuring out if everything went right, we could qualify 45. If everything went right, we're going to qualify 45. We qualified 46. We had the greatest district track meet I can ever remember. Coach Shunk from Caldera comes up and he shakes his head. He goes, man, that is a district team. And I was like, yeah, that was something. We couldn't repeat it the next week at state. That emotional high from district, we couldn't compete it the next week. Fortunately, we qualified so many kids, we just nickeled and dimed them. The boys we just nickeled and dimed them. There are too many 6th place, 7th places. When you qualify that many, you're going to win by just having sheer numbers. But our talented kids weren't the level of our most talented in the past. They were very, very good, but we just had to win as a team.
Yeah, that's cool, Coach. Can you kind of break down just your practice structure or layout for the week in season and what that looks like?
So in season, we our schedule on athletic.net looks crazy. It looks like we have a million things going on because we don't sacrifice the first day of track practice with meetings. We have a pre-season meeting the Friday before the season starts. And we just ask them all to come. We go into the weight room. We introduce our staff. We do little games and activities, and they set their goals. And that way on Monday, we can just hit the ground running. We do have some preseason things that we do with indoor track, and we invite every kid. In fact, we have kids from other schools that come and train with us. It's a part of what used to be Mondo Track Club, and it's now Central Oregon Track Club. But that's just to kind of get them in shape for the season and have some fun during indoors. We don't try and hit big PRs or anything during indoors. But once the season starts, I try not to have a meeting every day, but you tend to just, there's kind of a thing I used to think about, inspiration before perspiration, right? If you just get a little bit of motivation, it goes a long way in an athlete's head. And so we tend to do just a word of the day, team warm up. Our team warm up is nothing special. We do a lap. We get together in the middle of the field. We do some storm jacks. Usually a team captain nominates somebody, or I nominate somebody for the word of the day, and they say their word of the day. What is it that we're working on? Well, somebody might say discipline. Somebody might say fun. It doesn't really matter as long as it's an idea for the team to focus on that day. Then they break into their groups. Distance runners go do their thing because they don't need the same warm-up we need. We try and specialize during that practice. The only true team time is that first 10 minutes. That's it, because there's not enough time in 2 hours. We have lacrosse that has to hit the field at 6 o'clock. And so we have 2 hours to get everything done. And with the team, we had 194 kids on the team this last year. That you need time. And so we don't really have time to do a lot of team stuff, but we do team dinners. We do team activities. We have our app that we use to communicate, and we have good team captains and good team leaders to do the team things. But we really do have to focus on individual time, and that continues out. Obviously, any good coach should backwards plan. So we plan our season out from the state meet. We plan it backwards. The workouts early season are brutal, and then the kids get kind of torn down, and they keep training, and pretty soon they start to drop time, sometimes sooner than we want. This last year, that was exactly what happened. They started dropping times, and I'm like, oh boy, I don't. They're dropping times way too fast. This is not good. And
But then it kept dropping, baby.
what's that?
But then it kept dropping.
It just kept dropping, and then by district, when we really went off the volume and started really working on speed, man, the times dropped. I mean, we were dropping 0.2 in the 100, 0.3 in the 200, almost half a second in the 400. You know, the training, it's systematic and scientific. And if it's systematic and scientific and it's part of a process and a program, you're going to see results from every kid. And we saw results from every kid. If you only see it from your suds, you know you're not truly coaching them all. Those ones that you coach at the top get it. But man, we had a young lady that came out for track this year after not doing track a year ago. And she came out and she dropped 2 full seconds in the 100. And she made our district team. And she could not believe it. She came in the first week, said, Turnbull, I don't know if this new training plan is going to work. I'm so torn down. I said, well, have you seen the workout today? And she goes, what? I said, it's posted out there on the board, because we'd never done that before. And she walks back in, she goes, oh, today's a recovery day? I said, of course it is. Look how hard you worked yesterday. We can't do that 2 days in a row. She dropped 2 full seconds and wrote the nicest note to me I've probably ever had. Your quality as a coaching staff is when the upper tier and the lower tier progress at the same rate. And that's not saying you're coaching them all the same. That's saying you're coaching them different, because the lower tier kid needs a different process than the upper tier kid. They might have the same training regimen, but you individualize off of that. And to me, when you take a look at that and you take a look at the depth of your distance runners, your sprinters, or your jumpers, depth tells you the quality. And this year, I'm so excited about this. Our team didn't even understand what this was, but our boys, the 5A, the record, Eldon Keller, 1975 Hillsborough team, was the #1 ranked dual meet team of all time. And our boys this year beat them. And for me, that is an accomplishment that's bigger than the state meets. The 23 state championships looks good on paper. I want the #1 ranked dual meet team, because that tells you the depth of your program, the depth of your coaches. And that, to me, man, that is a huge deal for me, seeing us knock them off.
That's awesome. I love how freaking charismatic you are and fired up and just juiced you are about track. It's getting me going over here. I'm not a track guy. I was a volleyball player in high school, so I try to stay away from the 300 hurdles. I didn't want to get sucked into that. No, but I love your passion, coach, and it obviously is just kind of exuding just through the monitor here. So I can see why that translates to your players and why they pick up on, just your belief. And so it makes absolute sense as far as why you've been so successful. If you could change anything about the sport of track, and if you had a magic wand, if you could change anything about the sport of track, what would that be?
I've thought about this. I've been doing it long enough now, and I think there was a move not long ago with USATF to shorten track meets, to get them to a point where there would be more people wanting to watch a track meet. So spectatorship isn't what it needs to be for the sport to remain relevant, right? The only reason it's relevant right now is that anybody can do it. And so still, by population, there are more kids that do track than any other sport in the United States. And that's been continual. Just think of Summit, 194 kids out on the track team. Well, compare that against anybody else. There is no comparison. So the only reason it's still relevant is the popularity through development. But I think we need to do a better job of doing a 3 or a 4 event track meet in the evenings in your hometown, where people can come out and they can watch just 3 or 4 events, and it takes no longer than an hour. Track meets, I tell you what, I get more sore from coaching a track meet than I ever did as an athlete. Because an athlete, you get done with your thing, you go sit down, you get a snack, you kind of take care of your body. As a coach, you're standing there for 8 to 10 hours at a Saturday track meet, and you get in your car and you drive back home 3-4 hours, and you wake up the next day and you're so sore. I think at the high school level, I wouldn't change it much, because there's something for everyone. But if you want viewership, then at the professional level and even the collegiate level, maybe there are certain meets, or maybe just you have the meet, but you have to sell them differently. I think we're in an age right now where the dopamine hit is so big from all the on-screen things, and they can watch a basketball game and You look at the NBA game that just happened, and it's so exciting, and the comebacks and all that. You don't have that same type of energy in track except for the 11 seconds in the 100 meters or the 20 seconds in the 200, and everything around that is kind of building up. So it takes a very, very educated consumer to enjoy track. And we have those in the United States, but still, if you go to the national championships in Eugene, Tracktown USA, and those stands aren't packed. They should be packed. Well, there's a reason they're not. And we have to come up with the answer to that. So I don't.
What would your 3 to 4 events be?
I think it should change. I think it should change. There should always be a sprint race in there. There should always be a jumps. There should always be a distance, and there should always be a throws. And if you put those 4 in there, I'd probably go to 5 because hurdles are exciting. You watch a hurdle race, they're freaking exciting, man.
They want to see someone fall. They want to see someone fall. That's what it is.
You know, I've always said you want to make the sport of track exciting. You release a lion at the start of the 400. Now all of a sudden you'll have viewership because people, I don't know why, or have a hurdle race where the hurdles just pop up in the middle of the race. You don't know where they're coming. Now you've got viewership because there's an excitement to it. And until we get that excitement level, just the track is one of the purest sports out there. Mano a mano, right? It's pure, but pure doesn't cut it anymore. There has to be some gimmick in there. And we don't have that in track. And I think eventually it'll come back around. People will realize that. But right now we're in a spot where without a gimmick, it's not a sales job. There's kids out there racing. And that's good for families. They want to come watch, but they won't stay up till 10 o'clock at night to watch that.
Yeah. Just kind of piggybacking off of what you just said in that concept. Like we took our daughter, they had the gymnastics regional meets or national championship meet. I can't remember, here at Oregon State. So we took our daughter and I had no idea what to expect. This is my first time going, but it was probably one of the more entertaining events, college sporting events I've been a part of. Because exactly like you said, it's boom, 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 boom. Like as soon as you finish your floor dance, I don't know what it's called, they're going right over there to the high beam. They're going right over there to the double bar. So everything is just back to back to back. And it was cool too, because the opposing teams, regardless who was on, doing the event, the opposing teams and your own team, they're cheering on whoever is performing like crazy. But it was nonstop, going from event to event to event to event. There was no downtime. And I thought that was really cool and really unique. And I think that what you just said, that concept would actually be, I think it would be a hit. Because there is a lot of lag time. That was my college work study job. I had to go do that when I was at Linfield. We do have, whether we had to go mark the shot put or what, but we had different ones. And yeah, it was a long day.
You learn a lot by working a track meet, and it's tough to get volunteers. But what you were saying about that constant, maybe there's something different, a different way for viewers to do this. Maybe they do a 4-screen, right? So you're looking at the TV screen and you see, here's the high jump over here, here's the 100 meter, and you can watch them all at once. But when that 100 meter starts, all of a sudden, boom, big screen. You watch that because everybody's going to stop their other events anyways. Hey, I always did. I wanted to see that. Boom, 100 meters. They win. They talk about it. Boom, goes back to the 4-screen. There's one, and all of a sudden, pole vaulter's up. He's running down. Boom, comes on. You see it. There's probably ways to do it. Maybe it's production engineering. And maybe it will take an old guy like me that's been doing it forever to get together with other, get together with Ross at athletic.net and DieStat and come up with something a little different. But I think the sport definitely is going to have to change, at least from the viewership standpoint.
You've hit on this a lot throughout this conversation, but just for this question, I just kind of want you to geek out on this one. And I'm just assuming this is how you feel. Why is track the greatest sport, in your opinion?
Because it replicates life. Track meets are failure events. And very few times in a track meet do you get a personal record or a personal best, but you always find failure, always. Well, isn't that life? I mean, I could look at my own story. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer a few years ago, and I didn't blink. Literally, I was like, okay, let's get a second opinion, get the second opinion, OHSU, take a look at that. And the doctor gets a hold of me on my birthday, December 6th. I'll never forget. And we're sitting there and he goes, all right, your type of cancer, there is no treatment. The only way to do this is removal because it does not respond to chemo. It does not respond to radiation. It does not respond to hormones. The only way to do this is to have that prostate out. And I just looked at my wife and said, let's get it done. And we moved up there. We went up and got it done. And the side effects are pretty minimal for me. I've been very fortunate there. And as we speak right now, I've got an appointment this Wednesday to take a look at some other things that they've seen in there. And prospective, it could be cancer. But you don't run away from it. You don't miss at the high jump and walk away and say, I'm done for the day. No, you reflect, you think about what you did wrong, you talk to your coach, you get back in there, you get some rhythm, you get some poise, and you go attack it. That's the same way with life. People are going to die. People are going to get sick. You're going to lose a job. You're going to maybe get a divorce or have an argument with somebody. Reflect, reset, and go. Reflect, reset, and go. That's track. And I guess that's the thing I love most about it. It's on you. I was a football player as well. I could have a bad game and still win. You can't do that in track. If you have a bad game, a bad performance, it's usually the outcome's not what you want. So the reason in my mind it is the best sport in the world is because it's so individualized and it's so about you and what you do. Team's important, right? I have a team of doctors working with me, but ultimately you got to get out there and do it.
That's awesome. That was a great fucking answer.
It's a true answer.
Yeah. If I was an observer coming to watch your practice, or a fellow coach, came to watch your practice, what do you want me to take away from that practice as far as the identity of the program?
The amount of discipline involved. And it's not coach to athlete discipline. It's not a coach screaming out at the kid. It's an athlete's dedication and commitment to something bigger than themselves. And that's how we sell it. If you're out here on our track team for yourself and only yourself, you need to find yourself another team, because this is bigger than you. And when you feel that it's bigger than you and you compete at a level where you're holding yourself accountable at a higher level because it's bigger than you, you're going to perform at a higher level overall. And you're going to have teammates that are on the corner cheering you on. It becomes a family event. And I think if somebody was to come out here looking at one of our practices, I would hope they'd walk away by going, wow, that was inspiring to watch that practice. It's just a practice, but you can walk away inspired from a practice if the program's doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. If you could coach any athlete, past or present, who would it be and why?
Any athlete, past or present? Holy smokes. That's a tough question. And I think a lot of people would immediately look to go to their best athlete. We had a young
this could be a professional athlete, someone you don't even know. This could be a Hall of Famer, a legend. It could be anyone. It's a big hypothetical here.
Okay. I don't want the Hall of Famers and legends. They already have everything they need. Young lady named Vicky. She was on our team and she could not make the pit in the long jump. Our pit was 8 feet and she could not make it. And very, very, very low talent. Wonderful character, charisma, very low talent. And we worked and couldn't get her into the pit. We had to tape on 4-foot boards for her to run down there. We made her a team captain because she did everything well, but she was our fun captain. So her job was to come up with fun activities for us because she couldn't lead by performance. It just wasn't her thing. And senior year, JV meet, she comes down, 8-foot board, makes the pit. I fall to my knees. I'm crying. We're screaming and yelling. And we are so ecstatic about the fact that she put in 4 years to jump 8 feet in the long jump. And I will tell you, out of everybody I've ever coached, that's probably my proudest moment. I'm emotional right now talking about it because those kids don't get the feedback by the newspaper, the media, all that kind of stuff. They're doing it for a completely different reason. She didn't quit. She kept going after it. It was that dang long jump. She just wanted to make the sand. When she made the sand, it was as if I'd done something. It was like I jumped 7 foot all over again.
Shout out Vicky. Great anecdote, great story. One of the things, just within this 45-minute conversation, you're treating your top guy and your bottom guy, at least from an approach standpoint. I know you said different in approach, but the care factor is the exact same, no matter what the contribution is. When was that like? Was that always your approach? When did that become, a thing for you?
That's a great question. I think early on I tended to focus on the more elite athletes because they were the ones that were going to bring you the attention, right? And there's an ego there. We want to be recognized for our successes, but when you do that, you're really ignoring a section of population there on your team that needs it more than anybody else. And I think from those experiences, watching your JV kids. Let's see, Alex, the girl that came out this year after taking a year off, and she drops 2 full seconds off her 100 meters. It's those kids, the growth and the shine that you see out of them. It's more powerful than the podium. It's not the medal that makes the moment, it's the moment that makes the medal, right? And so we got to remember it's about the moments for all those kids, and the moment is much bigger for the kids that are less talented.
I don't know if you're these one-liners, if you read them somewhere, or if they're just straight David Turnbullisms, but I like them, man.
It's they're from the book of Turnbology.
Turnbull. Obviously, coach, just your mental makeup, your philosophy, your attitude. Aside from your own personal experience, aside from your coaching experience, what other external factors, books, things of that nature would you recommend, for other coaches?
I tell this to my kids. Every coach needs to go and do something they're not good at. Go pick up a guitar if you've never played the guitar. And I don't care if you're 55 years old. Go do it. When I did the album last year, I decided to just sit down and start working. I picked up my guitar. My family was in New York, and I had time to just sit on my deck out here and reflect on my life. And so when I put that album together, it was all stories of my life. And I'm a storyteller. And I think the more you challenge yourself to do something that you're not really confident at, the more you build resiliency. And in this life, resiliency is everything. And so any athlete or coach that's out there, learn another event. If track is all you know and that's all you're good at, then I'm concerned for you because your identity's wrapped up in one thing, and what happens when that's gone. So you need to be multifaceted. I have 12 cars sitting here. If I walked you up to my shop right now, you'd look at, I restore old vehicles. I have a 93 Celica all-track turbo, 91. I've got an 87 Jeep. I've got an MR2. I've got a Supra. Those constantly working on other things. My identity is more than coaching. I can do many more things. And when my career in coaching is done, I've got a career here. And boredom leads to frustration, failure, and sadness. And so I said this earlier, when you're stuck in your own head, that's not a good place to be. And so my advice for everyone is to go and learn how to do something. Why pay somebody else to come change your carburetor? We got YouTube.
I wouldn't know how to do it. I got to pay someone.
Yeah, but you got YouTube. We have so many. I learned to weld during COVID. I was going crazy. So I have a farm here. So we were farming hemp, right? Of all things, I'm farming hemp, and I didn't know anything about it. So I built a machine that takes the hemp and rips it right off the stem. I can do something in 20 seconds that usually took 30 minutes. And I hired a high school kid, and we built this machine. I've still got it because it's one of the proudest moments of my time on earth, was building something for a specific need that I would have had to pay $125,000 for that piece of machinery. We
That's
built
crazy.
a team. So I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, but go find something you're not good at and get better at it.
Bandwidth. Obviously, we all have a certain amount of bandwidth in a given day. And right, you got music, you got being a father, you got being a husband, you got being a teacher, you got being a coach, you restore cars, and you grow hemp.
I don't grow.
Oh, sorry. But okay. But the bandwidth, man, where do you get all this energy and just being able to allocate your time and energy in an efficient manner, in an effective manner?
You're going to laugh at this. I tell kids this all the time. My greatest superpower is I have ADHD. So I have more energy than you, and I burn the candle. My problem is I burn so fast and so hot that at 8 o'clock, 8:30, I'm dead. Those batteries got to recharge. And the older I get, the more I need recharged. So I operate best on about 10 hours sleep. And as long as I get that 10 hours sleep, I will get up, and my dogs don't let me sleep in anyways. I get up and I get going. And there's a certain amount of pride in my property, pride in myself as a person, pride in the vehicles I restore, pride in the coaches that I have, pride in the athletes that I have. And that pride pushes the motor. That's what happens. And so pride pushes performance, right? There's another Turnbullism. But we can only do what we're expected to do. And if we expect it to do well, we'll do it well.
Awesome. Gave you a heads up before we got on. My daughter has a question for the guest of the day. And her question is, who's your favorite superhero?
Spiderman.
Why?
Because he's taking what he already has. He can't fly and do all those other things. He's coming up with ways to fly. He's got the webbing that he figures out to get around. He does all these incredible things. He uses his brain more than his body. I read Spider-Man as a kid. That was the one comic I had to read. And I think I related to Spider-Man because Spider-Man just is an oddball. You just look at who Spider-Man is. He's an oddball that goes out and does incredible things. and he just creates a way to do it, right? So he's bit by a spider, right? So we're all bit by something in our life. Now, what we do with that bite kind of depends on, I guess, our personality and our viewpoint on the world. And I said
There goes
this,
another Turnbullism right there.
right? Well, perspective is everything. And it's at the end of every email. If you send me an email, I send something back that says, perspective is everything. Be great. Well, yeah. Doesn't our mindset dictate what we're going to do? So why do we think poorly? That's just dumb. Spiderman doesn't think poorly. He processes things. He goes out there and he makes something great. So my ADHD is my superpower, and I'm going to use it. And I think the best place to use it is by coaching, because those kids, it takes energy, and I tend to have a lot of it.
Great answer. What does the word team mean to you?
Team is, I hate to be redundant, but team is being more than yourself. And I talked about it earlier. If you can't step on the track and perform for more than yourself, then you're not a team player. And we had a kid, he broke our team record in the 3,000 this year, Bjorn Blankenship. He ran an 8:12, which is smoking. I mean, this kid might be in the 7s next year, and that's just a ridiculous time. And he just was awesome. He stepped in 4x4 when we needed him. He did more for the team in that moment than he had to. And on the opposite side, Jude Jarrett, who's been on the team all year, he won the 200 state championship. He said his favorite moment was the 4x4. Well, we only took 4th there, and we ran slower than we'd run almost all the season. And he said that was his favorite moment. I said, why? And he says, because it was team. That's what it is. It's team. And I love that our girls' championship came down to the 4x4, because it's a team event. I want it to always come down to a team event and find out which group of 4 is your better team. So team is about being more than just competing for yourself.
Yeah. 194, is that what, how many kids came out?
194. We probably finished with 165 when you take a look at who's actually doing the meets, because those other 30s found out track is really hard. This isn't like middle school, and not saying middle school is not hard, but we push a little harder.
Yeah. Well, just to finish with 160 and just to have, 30 athletes of attrition is a feat in itself. So how, I guess, as a coach with that many bodies, with that many personalities, with that many people, like, obviously there's going to be some people, there was some attrition, but how do you try and get everyone aligned? And then at the same time, everyone might not be out there. Everyone's out there for different reasons. Some might just be out there because their friend is out there. So I guess, how do you get everyone aligned? And if someone is not following the standards, like, what does that approach look like as far as, hey, how do we get you back on track, or you're not going to be a part of the program type thing?
Well, number one, and it's going to sound, I don't know, harsh, but I don't like drama on a team. And so when there's drama, I try and put myself right in the middle of it, and I try and take care of it as quickly as we can, because that can fester. And anytime you've got any type of rumor on the team, somebody talking poorly about another one, well, I'd like to be a family atmosphere, but not a dysfunctional family atmosphere, right? So you want to put out the fires as soon as they happen. I think you're less likely to deal with distractions like that when the team watches you work with a lesser able student to push them to the higher level. They start to understand that it's more than winning. It's more than winning, because your girl that runs a 15-second 100 is not going to help you in points. But when you're spending as much time with that girl that runs a 15-second 100 as the girl that runs the 12-1, then all of a sudden they don't just hear that you're trying to develop a full team, they see it. And so they're more likely to stay out because they feel like a valued member of the team. And so I think that's the best way to keep that attrition from happening. If everybody feels like they're a part of it, then if you're a part of something, you want to stay there. If you're not part of something, you want to pull away. So we just have to make them feel valued and appreciated and respected.
If you have an athlete that, have maybe underperformed from, their own expectations, and they maybe done this on a consistent, 2-3 meet basis, when do you step in? What does your approach look like? Do you kind of try and let them reset themselves, or when do you step into the picture to try and get them back on track?
That's a pretty individualized question. It takes a lot to know when to act and when to not act. Verbal inspiration can't hurt anybody. And so I usually try and inspire somehow. And there are many times where you have to pull a kid inside and say, wait a minute, we've got some technical flaws right now that are keeping you from performing. Last year, we had a high jumper, Stella, if she listens to this, she struggled in the high jump, and I'm the high jump coach, right? And all of a sudden she's struggling, and it's 3-4 meets in a row. She's no hiding, and she's crying, and I'm crying. I'm frustrated. I can't figure things out. And I'm sitting here and I'm sleeping, and I just had this epiphany. I don't like kids much wider than a 12 or 13 step approach width-wise. I like them to lean. And all of a sudden I'm like, her attack angle's wrong. The way she plants is not allowing. Next day I said, Stella, we got to go 15. She's like, what? We're going to go 15 wide. We're going to lean in on that approach. And it fixed her. And it took 3 meets for us to process that. And this year she qualified for state, went and jumped at state. She didn't score, but at her senior year, she was at the state meet. That is a huge accomplishment and something I take pride in because she didn't give up. I didn't give up. I dreamt about it and we made it work. And so I think each athlete's different. With Stella, I had to fix it because it was breaking her heart and she cared about it. So I think I came home caring about it. And I don't know if that makes sense, but some kids, pat on the back, come on, toughen up. Some kids, technical. And some kids, I've had to go to kids and say, you know what, we need to find a different event. And there's a very nice way of doing that, but a lot of times you'll pull a kid from one event, put them in another, and all of a sudden they find a level of success. And that's the coach's job. Our job, and I think that's the most important thing, if somebody used to ask me, my philosophy is find out what a kid's good at and help them get better at it. Because 17 events, there's one that they're going to be best at. Find that event, help them get better at it.
194 kids. How do you establish a sense of, leadership within the team? What does your leadership or captain process look like? Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, with 194 kids, it takes a lot of captains, a lot of coaches, 19 coaches on the staff. I like to be able to say we could get to a 10-to-1 ratio. We know that always doesn't happen, but if you got 190 kids, you need 19 coaches. We have 12 captains. The captains are usually male and female within groups. And we don't vote. The outgoing captains nominate the captains. Those come to me. I ask the other coaches, maybe let's say it's a distance kid, and I'll say, this next year we have Charlie, he's one of our captains, he was nominated, and I'll go to Carrie Strang and say, hey, Carrie, what do you think about that? That's an excellent choice, Dave. He's also a cross-country team captain, and boom, those are our captains. If it's voted on, it's a popularity contest. That's not what I want. I want captains like I talked about, Vicky. Now, Vicky, I put up there because I saw her work ethic and what she was doing. She was low enough on the totem pole, she wouldn't have been nominated by anybody else. But once she really lifted up the JV program because they saw somebody like them in a leadership position. And so I think keeping all 194, you need to have those Vickies in your program that you elevate because something in their character stood out, maybe not athletic-wise, but in their character or personality, you were able to honor them.
Yeah. If you were, just hypothetical here, if Coach Dave Turnbull was not a part of the program anymore and the staff continuity at Summit was not a thing, what is unique about, I guess, your approach, or what is unique about you guys' approach at Summit? If I were to take you out of the equation, because obviously you play a huge part of everything, but what is it, something maybe from a practice standpoint that you feel like is unique to you guys' success?
Well, here's my biggest fear, Keanu, as when I leave the program, if they don't pull somebody into the head position that is also a teacher in the building, the program won't sustain. Here's why. I will walk the halls. I will get kids. I go to every volleyball game. I go to every football game, as many different activities as I can. And I let those athletes know that I care about them. I'm supporting them. And then I will recruit them. And when you have a relationship with somebody and they see you traveling to Redmond to watch or traveling to Boise to watch their game, they're going to be more likely to come out. If you remove that energy and that investment towards those kids, the program's not going to continue. And so if I'm removed from the program, this sounds egocentric. The only way to remain where we're at is to bring somebody in the program that is also a teacher and has the energy to actually follow kids, inspire kids, smile at kids, joke with kids, and bring them into the fold before they're an athlete. Bring them in as a person before you ever see them on the track, right? So you have to build that relationship before they're out there, or they're never going to come because let's be honest, track sucks. It's hard. You're out there running repeats and vomiting. Who wants to do that? I could go out and play badminton, or join. You played volleyball. We lost a bunch of volleyball players because now men's volleyball is the same time as as men's track. And so I have some of those kids that we lost. We lost a very good hurdler, and it's because volleyball's there. And even practice is a game. It's fun. I played basketball. I played football. Yeah, we conditioned a little bit in high school, but every practice there was some element of game. And, a 4-3-2-1 sprint followed by a 500, that's a vomit causer. And who wants to do that? So you got to have somebody in there that's within the building that can recruit and build that team cohesion before they're out on the track. That way the buy-in's there. And when they find out how hard practice is, they don't leave.
That's good stuff, Coach. You mentioned a lot of anecdotes and a lot of testimonies of athletes that you've had that, they overcame a hurdle and it was awesome. Not only for yourself, but for that athlete. Can you maybe touch on, a story where maybe that athlete didn't turn the corner and maybe that athlete ended up stepping away from track, and what that had an effect on you as a coach and how that maybe has shaped your philosophy as a coach?
That's a tough one, because either I blocked it out or I don't remember. I had one young lady who was so dynamite her freshman year. She was a distance runner and she was crushing people. And then, as young ladies do, she matured. And your body almost fights against you as a distance runner if you gain weight. Man, it's so hard. This is so hard to talk about with females because weight is a major issue, right? And she ended up quitting the sport because she couldn't compete any longer. She couldn't win and she couldn't take it. Well, I got her back out. I shouldn't say the distance coach and myself got her back out. And I promised her she would run the same times. And we got to the Oregon relays, and she's sitting next to me after the meet. The first day we're going to dinner, and she's crying in the seat behind me. And I said, "What's up?" And she said, "You promised me I would run the same times, and I'm not." And I looked at her and I said, "It's not time yet. It's not time yet." And she qualified for state, got to the state meet. I have this picture in my room right behind my desk. It's she and I hugging, and at the state meet, she ran a lifetime PR after quitting track, coming back, and she ended up getting a scholarship to Hawaii. And those are the moments that you realize it's so much more than the time on the board. But for that athlete, that time on the board represents the struggle and the success. And that young lady's going to be successful in her life because she came back.
That's awesome. That's a great anecdote. I asked for a failure story, and it was a failure story that turned into another awesome story.
I can't remember a failure story where they
That's good. That's good. If you had to give advice to your younger self or other aspiring coaches, what would that advice be?
Never stop learning. I said it earlier, find something that challenges you. It's easy to be good at something you're already good at, right? But that doesn't do anything to build you up. Yeah, you might get a little cocky and a little arrogant because you were born fast and you go out and run 100 in 10.9. But what if you could have ran it in 10.2, but you didn't put the work in? The saying that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work, that is such a true statement. But when talent works, it's game over. And what we're trying to do at Summit is finding those kids, putting them in the right position, and then helping them get as good as they can be. And through the numbers game, you win. Well, every single one of those kids is being challenged to a point they've not been challenged before. Imagine if we could all do that daily as we found something challenging. I'm looking at a barbecue behind me that's 14 years old, and the bottom was all rusted out. And I'm looking online. Oh my gosh, how much? So I go up and I tear it all apart and I put a new bottom in it, because it's like I could go spend $400 on Facebook Marketplace and get a new one, or I could take that $20 piece of sheet metal, go cut it out, drill it in, and do what I'm supposed to do. I didn't have any experience on that. But it's already broke. You're not going to make it worse. So coaches, cut the fear. Stop operating out of a projection of fear because you maybe are afraid to coach the pole vault. Go to some clinics, figure out how to be a better communicator. Communication is a key to success. And if you're not a good communicator as a coach, you're probably not going to be very successful.
Any aspirations? I know you're going to retire Summit potentially 2 years, 2028. What does it look like? What does retirement look like? Are you going to get into college coaching? What are we doing?
I have no aspirations to be a college coach. I had a few opportunities a few years ago, and I remember John Gillespie he was at Oregon at the time, and he told me to apply for the coach job at Oregon State. And I just was like, you know what? And this is going to sound almost like I'm just violating what I just said. Just go try something, be good at something you're not good at. There's something about being at peace and satisfied with something that you are doing. And I think we have so many coaches looking for bigger and better and bigger and better. And maybe what you have is really pretty great. And I think where I'm at right now at Summit is pretty great. And I have respect from the coaching staff, respect from admin, respect from the kids, respect from most parents. Like I said, parents is the one issue. I wish I could just fix it, but you can't. Parents are blinded by love. We're not. I'm in charge of developing your athlete. You're concerned about one track meet they didn't get into, right? It's like, there's a reason for that. What am I going to do when I'm done? I'm not real sure. I've been visiting with some folks up in Portland, Bree and Ashton, about a multi-club, and I might develop a club down here that's only working on multi-athletes, decathletes and heptathletes. And with Bree and Ashton up there, combining that and maybe developing some top-tier multi-athletes. I'm still involved in the sport of track and field. I've got 10 acres out here. I could build an indoor training facility if I wanted to. I don't know, but a student asked me this the other day. They said, what are you going to do in retirement? And I literally didn't have an answer. If I don't have an answer, then I don't retire. Because if you're not busy, you're bored. And if you're bored, you die. So I want to keep challenging myself.
Yeah, no, just to go back on what you're saying. I had Coach Ad Rutschman on here. Do you know the name Ad Rutschman? Yeah. So he has a thing because he had opportunities too when he was at Linfield as a baseball coach and football coach to go coach at the Division I level. And, I was like, what was your thought process with all of that? Because, I'm a young coach and I started off and I wanted to climb that ladder quickly. And I was very fortunate enough to be around, 3 really great staffs at Oregon, Boise State, Oregon State. But then I ended up stepping away in spring of 25, and that was the best thing for me. But anyways, Coach Rutschman said, be careful trying to improve on happy.
Yes.
And, that just, struck a chord. And like, that's so true. And then I think of Coach Rutschman. I think of, one of my mentors is Jackson Vaughn, who's the defensive coordinator and head softball coach at Linfield. And he's the fastest coach in, I think, Division III softball history to get to 900 wins. Wow. And this guy, I think in the mid 40s, maybe late 40s, like it's crazy. And, he's had opportunities and, I look at him and all his success that he's had as a defense coordinator and or as a softball coach. And then, just hearing your testimony and your story is like, what is it about, just being able to want to sustain that and just having that legacy piece when you do have opportunities to go and, maybe coach at a different level. And I know you just kind of answered it, but is legacy a big part of it? What other driving factors are there?
Yeah, a little bit of the legacy piece. I after we won a few state championships, then I remember talking to Kevin Cornett. He's one of our coaches on staff. He wasn't on staff yet, but I told him, I'm going to set a goal of 10 straight state championships. And then I think our girls hit 14 straight. And it's like, then what next? Okay, can I hit 20? Okay, now can I hit 25? We're at 23. So I told the kids, I said, if I'm going to retire at 28 years, 2028, I'd like to have 25 state championships. That's 2 more. So I got 2 years to get 2 more. And, a driving force for me has always been records and since high school, when I saw Tom Woods from Estacada High School with a 7-foot mark, I want a 7-foot 1/4 inch because there's something about that. And it might be ego. I'm sure it is, but just that drive. I'm an athlete. I've always been an athlete. I grew up an athlete. I can't compete anymore, but I can coach. And so if the drive is to leave a mark out there that somebody else like me, maybe an underachiever from years past, can look out and go, I wonder if I could get 26 state championships. And maybe that's a goal for somebody else. You're too young, but back in the 80s, South Eugene High School and John Gillespie, holy smokes, they were the team. And I now see how hard it is to be that good, but how rewarding it is to be that good. And to have people recognize you by name, which is pretty cool. It is part of my identity, a Dave Turnbull track coach. When I step away, I know there'll be a lot of people asking me if I want to help out with OSAA, OACA, wherever. I'm happy to do that, but I don't know if I want to make it a full-time commitment because you said, be careful trying to improve on happy. I have an awesome wife. I have awesome kids. I have great dogs. I can do whatever I want on my property, and I live in a beautiful area. I mean, there's not much improvement that I could do. And so I think just being satisfied and happy as long as I've got challenge, satisfied, happy, and challenged. Those three things are kind of the key for Dave Turnbull's happiness.
I like that, Coach. That's good stuff. I appreciate your time. Great conversation. Obviously picked up a lot. I'm excited to go back and edit this and write down all the Turnbullisms. But I will have the episode released on Friday or Saturday of this week. I'll shoot you a text here in the coming days.
I appreciate it, Keanu. Thanks for your time. I know it's hard to connect up sometimes, and I appreciate your patience.
I'm glad I got you on. I'm glad I kept freaking asking, man. I'm glad I kept. This was an awesome convo, Coach, and a lot of people are gonna get a lot from this conversation.